Welcome to another Skills First beginner workshop for developing your enterprising skills. I'm Kathleen Webb, the founder and president of Skill Squirrel, and it is my pleasure for Skill Squirrel to host this series for Biz Coach Services. Today is session number 7, and our topic is Business Model Canvas and Market Niche Model by Strategizer. During this session, you will learn how to express a complete business idea or concept on one page by using building blocks to model what your business might look like in terms of your value proposition. Our presenter from Biz Coach Services is Vern Vitour. Vern has more than 35 years of experience providing small business coaching, training, and consulting. His many accomplishments include presenting small business, life, and career planning workshops for the cities of Toronto, Mississauga, St. Catharines, various colleges and universities, and many nonprofits and Indigenous organizations. He has also adjudicated and provided training for business pitch competitions, and he has held senior operations and marketing management positions with major franchises. Plus, Vern won a major national award in Best Practices and Youth Entrepreneurship Training in Canada. Now, over to Vern.
Thank you, Kathleen, and welcome everybody. Today's topic is Business Model Canvas and Market Niche Model. We briefly introduced the Business Model Canvas in a previous workshop, but today I'm going to go into a little bit more detail and also introduce you to the Market Niche Model. If you work both of them together, you'll find huge benefits in terms of developing your business idea. So you might have a great business idea and you want to explore different ideas quickly. Don't want to waste your time writing a business plan and then all of a sudden having to make adjustments, which means you now have to go back to maybe re-identifying your target markets, maybe re-identifying your product mix, and of course, having to make adjustments to your budgets. So one of the things that you might want to consider using is the Business Model Canvas and my Market Niche Model. So let's go over these two. So the first thing I'll do is I'll introduce you to the Business Model Canvas, and then we'll switch over to the Business Model Canvas for strategic planning. And then after that, I'll introduce you to the Market Niche Model. So the Business Model Canvas covers 3 main areas of a business: desirability, viability, and feasibility. The business model is like a blueprint for strategy to be implemented through organizational structures, processes, and systems. Let me show you a quick video and give you sort of a general overview of how this works.
Business model can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, a tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and invent new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and for each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. Channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. Customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with customers. Revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing methods your business model is capturing. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. The activities show which things you really need to be able to perform. Key partners show who can help leverage your business. Since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor you perform all key activities, then once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
So that was a quick rundown of business model canvas explained. The business model canvas actually started by Strategizer. And essentially, the way the building blocks work is that there's a section on the left that discusses the operational setup, the feasibility of the business. The two categories on the bottom describe the costs and the revenues. And the section on the right actually describes the business model itself. So as you can see, there are 9 building blocks, and they can be used to your advantage. And this is actually invented by a group of people. And on this particular, I'll just dump this for a sec. Hang on. Okay. And this is the link. I'll supply the link after the workshop, but this is the book that it came from, the Business Model Generation. Now, interestingly, there's a common property or agreement that anybody can use this, and they can have their own variations. So there's at least, I don't know, I've seen at least 100 different variations on the business model generation, but there are a good number of programs around the business model generation. I've adopted the 9 building blocks. There are some really interesting models, but I do have my take on it. But having said that, I'll just open this up for a moment, and you can actually download this guide. It's they're going to give you for free 75 pages of sampling. So it talks about the business model canvas and shows you the different the actual model and the 9 building blocks. So there's a number of different things that you can pick out of here, and you can use it for your advantage. You can, like I said, you can download this for free, and all you need to do is go to this link, that will supply, and you can actually download it and have a copy for yourself. Okay, moving on. So these are what the 9 building blocks do. And if we look at the section on the right-hand corner, we'll see that there's 5 building blocks on the right-hand side. And in the actual program, they call it value proposition, which is another name for product and service. They talk about customers, which is another name for target markets. They talk about revenue, which is how sales generation and where your money's going to come from. And they talk about distribution channels. In the actual business canvas model, they talk about distribution as how you're going to reach your customers, but usually by print. Whereas my take on this is that that's the vehicle, the truck, that you bring your gift via a vehicle to your customer. And whereas your customer relationships is your marketing. So slight variation, I take a slight variation. Whenever I have a discussion as a business coach or consultant, the first thing I'm going to ask anyone is, what's your idea? Who are your customers? And how are you going to make money? If you can't answer those 3, then we don't have a starting point. So once we do have that starting point, then we go to the next step, and it's like, well, how are you going to get your products to your customers? So therefore, the little truck there. So what's the vehicle? Is the vehicle bricks and mortar? Is it kiosks? Is it online? Is it e-commerce? Do you go to the customer? Does the customer come to you? So that's the vehicle by which we get our gift, our products and services, to our customer. When we look at number 5, we're looking at the marketing. The marketing part is the customer relationships. How am I going to reach them? Business cards, signs, videos, YouTube, some of the different social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. There's hundreds of different ways to reach your clients. So how are we going to develop those customer relationships? So you can see that the first 5 building blocks is all about concept. Now, if we look at the other side, the right-hand side, this is actually the operations part. These are actually the things that we need to make the business work. So for example, number 6 would be the key resources or the operations. What are the tools, or what does our production look like? What are the tools that we need? What's the equipment we need? Who are the people that we need? So those are the key resources that we need to make that business work. Then we have the key activities, which is number 7. Number 7, I talk about the administrative management. So what are your policies? Who's handling the sales? Who's handling human resources? Who's handling order processes and specifications? So all those things are part of key activities. Partners, the eighth block is about people that are partners, not true partners, but people who have an influence or can have an influence on our business. And those are bankers, suppliers, landlords, consultants, coaches. So anyone that can have an influence on us is called a partner. And where we can have an influence on them, or we have a relationship built up with a key partner, means that they'll work with us and we'll work with them. So that's how I sort of label a key partner. And then we have the 9th building block, which is interesting because this is the costs. This is figuring out, can I make money with this business? I want to bring in more revenues and I want to put out less costs. So what do my costs include? Well, my costs might include my channels. They're going to include my customer relationships or my marketing budget. They're going to include the dollars that I need to buy inventory, to buy the equipment that I need to run the operation and to fulfill my orders. Also administration and my key partners, suppliers, bankers, whatever. So those are all my costs. So I want to make sure that I make more money, more revenue coming into the business than I do with costs going out. Now, some people aren't as visual as others. And so what I have here is I have a narrative account or a narrative view of what the business model canvas is. So as you can see, and we will provide this as a handout to our workshop, with our workshop. So this is a narrative style. So again, what are your products or services? Who are your potential customers, your target market? How will you make revenue? What are the channels or ways you're going to get your product or services to your clients? How will you reach your customer relationships? How will you reach, communicate to, and develop your customer relationships? Then on the back end, we have the operations narrative style. So what are the key resources, the physical operational things we need to set up our business? And then what key activities do we need? Administrative, human resources. We need to produce potentially manuals, policies, human resources, sales, administration, in-house procedures, and all our planning, our key activities. And then who are our key partners? Again, your banks, suppliers, coaches, consultants, legal or record keeping. And what are the costs of running a business? So in my next slide, I'm going to show you why the business model canvas can be a really, really important planning tool. So this is an example of 8 business model prototypes. So the beauty of a business model canvas is that you can play with different ideas, concepts, methods, approaches, and you can do it quickly without too many obstacles so that your time is spent on creativity and possibilities. In this sample, you can see a number of different ways to publish a book. So you can see, for example, you could have publishing a book the old style, creating a free publication for marketing purposes, co-creating a book, maybe publishing on demand, or having an online book, or having a sponsored book, or a do-it-yourself book, or a customized book. Every time that I've mentioned a different way to do a publication, what I've done is I've actually affected all the rest of the building blocks, all the rest of the ways that we're doing the business. So really what happens is if I change my product or I change my service, it could affect my target market. It could affect the way I bring money into the business. It could affect the way I distribute. If I'm e-commerce, then I don't need I don't need a physical place. But if I'm a bricks and mortar, a retail store, then everything changes. So all my costs are different, all my processes are different, and that's going to affect. It's going to affect my key resources, the way my operations is set up. It's going to affect all my policies and procedures. It's probably going to affect my key partners. It's definitely going to affect my costs. So my revenues could be different. My costs can be different. My whole setup can be different. So the beautiful thing about having a business model canvas and just a simple piece of paper like this and having Post-it notes can be really handy to helping you to develop your idea. So the idea behind a business model canvas is to actually look at multiple views quickly, and you can look at them at the same time. And once you do that, then it's time to consider pulling together your research and financial budgets. Don't do research, then put your business idea together, then do all your budgets, and then all of a sudden you make a change. You've got to change too many things in the plan. By doing business model canvas, you ignore the research for the moment, and you ignore the budgets, although you have to look at your costs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But the point is that you're working on the concept, the creativity, the different ideas. Those are the benefits of doing the business model canvas this way. So basically, work on multiple canvases, explore different variations. You can use Post-it notes, play, be creative, be inspired, potentially share with others. So you can see that very simple model that I just showed you. Now, on the other hand, we now have the business market niche model. So I wanted to show this to you because it's something that I pulled together a number of years ago as a result of going to a workshop. So we'll talk about the purpose of the market niche model, and I'll show you how to use it to your advantage. My focus isn't corporations. My focus is small business. Keeping it small and personal is probably the way that I've been working for eons, for years. 30, 40 years, I've been working with small business, from franchisees to self-employed, to mom and pop operations, and to small businesses that are corporations. So if we look at the market niche model, the first thing we want to do is we want to determine the possible product or service offerings. Now, what happens is most people who approach me for the first time, they have an idea. They have a great idea. I'm not going to tell anyone that they don't have a great idea, but the difference between a great idea and a not so great idea is the idea doable? Is there a market? Do I have a model that shows that this business can potentially be sustainable? So what are your product or service offerings? What I find is that most times people have one idea and they don't think about anything else. And then when they get down the road a little bit, they discover that, there's a couple of things missing here, right? Either they haven't collected enough data, haven't done enough research. Maybe they find out that the model that they've potentially described, there isn't a big enough market for it, or they haven't identified the markets for it. So this is a tool that'll help us to do all that at the very beginning, rather than finding out and having to make changes later. The other thing too is that on top of product and service offerings, which by the way, from an economic point of view, is the supply side. In an economic model, we have supply and we have demand. The supply side is what we can offer. We're limited to our resources. So potentially, or maybe we're unlimited, but the thing is that we need to figure out what possible products and service offerings can we put together? And then on the other side, the demand side, what are the possible target markets we can look at? So we need, at the end, we need to examine and determine which combination of product mix and target markets would be the best approach to scaling our business. So here's just a sample or a quick look at the market niche model. It's actually made up of 4 columns. So I formatted this from an idea that was presented a number of years ago, and I've evolved it into a model of maximizing opportunity and options for developing products and services. So on the one hand, I've got a box. You can see this box in the left-hand column. And what that represents is that represents a broad market mix, a broad market mix. It could be products, it could be services, it could be both. But I want to identify as many product mix areas, service mix areas as I possibly can. And I also want to figure out what's the broadest market reach. Okay, so by doing this, what I'm doing is I'm stretching the mind. I had this one idea at the beginning, and I never thought I could potentially offer it different ways. On the other hand, the next column is, what if we just focused on a single product? And we just, and all we did is went after one market with one product or one service. And what we do to expand is we start looking at multiple target markets for that one product. Conversely, or in the abstract, or another way of looking at it, what if we go to the third column where we have multiple products and we start out with a single market, or a single target market, and we start adding products or services and catering to that one single market. Now, a pure niche, and this is where a lot of companies will start out, they'll start out with a pure niche, and that's one single niche market to one single target market. Okay, so there's no right answer or a wrong answer in terms of your starting point. But what you'll find is that your starting point might come from a different number of ways or sources. So if we have tons and tons of resources, it's possible to start out with a broad market mix and broad market reach. But the thing to understand about target markets is that as soon as we change the target market, we actually add on to our budget. Because to reach our target markets costs money, costs time, costs and takes effort. So for every target market we have potentially a different budget. Every time we add a new product or a new service, again, it's going to cost money to cater or to promote or to get the word out that we have additional products and services. So potentially, if I have a single product and I can find multiple target markets, it might make it easier to just approach those target markets and bingo, I now just produce one product and I'm selling it to multiple markets. Or on the other hand, maybe I have a single target market and I start adding products to that. If I look at a chain, I'll use a big corporation called McDonald's. We've heard of McDonald's. When they started out in the 1950s, they had very few products. They had a burger, milkshake, French fries. That's it, nothing else. And they started out with a single market. So they were catering to families. That was their single market. And they had a very limited range of products. Now, if you look at them today, they have grown exponentially. Now, if I have a single target market and I start adding products, that's called vertical growth. If I have a single product and I expand into different multiple target markets, that's called horizontal growth. Guess what? If you can do both at once, you're talking about potentially exponential growth. So that's how McDonald's started. It started with a very simple recipe, 3 items, but instead of growing vertically, it started to grow horizontally, which means that it took a carbon copy of its own business and started opening in different places. Now, I know some of you might just want to be a sole proprietor and potentially a sole practitioner and self-employed. That's okay. Nobody's asking and telling you that you have to grow to the nth degree. Nobody's asking you to do that. However, we have to look at the possibilities. And if you want to grow bigger than yourself, you might want to look at the market niche model, number one. And number two, even if you're going to be a sole practitioner, maybe it's best to open up your blinds, open up the blinds or your blinders, and to see what the possibilities are. So here's how this works. In this setup, I've got the 4 columns. So as you can see, there's the box. The box represents, and I'll just so I have a broad number of products here. So what I want to do is I want to write down as many products or services or variations that I can actually do. On the other hand, I want to make a list of all the potential target markets. So when I have these products, maybe there's multiple target markets that I can go after. And target markets include geographic, demographic, and psychographic. And there can be multiple beneficiaries to our target markets. I'll get into that later. So as you can see, we can write down multiple products and services and multiple target markets. I call this a brain dump. And the reason why I call it a brain dump is that we should consider, we should consider before we even start the business at looking at all the possibilities and all the options, okay? So for example, let's say I'm an artist. I do oil paintings. I do fabulous oil paintings. I've made a living just doing oil paintings. I usually do scenery, and potentially I do, my format is let's say a 2-foot by 3-foot oil painting. And I charge $4,000 to $6,000 per oil painting. Great, fantastic. But is that all I can do with an oil painting? Well, guess what? I could be a trainer. I could teach painting. I could sell signed numbered prints. I could take painting and put it into a book. I could publish a book with my paintings. I can do training programs. I can do them online or in a class. I can potentially make kits with all the colors and instructions on how to do the art. So as you can see, I might be an artist, so I might just have that one product and I've got that one market. But what I want to do is I want to do a brain dump and look at the potential of adding products over time. So the brain dump is very important because it will actually let us, it'll actually let you look at all the potential opportunities in the future. And we do the same thing for the target markets as well. I might be dealing with one demographic, one group of people, but I might also be able to sell my art to corporations. I have an artist friend who leases art for corporate boardrooms and changes them out every couple of years. So you can see that there's different target markets that can actually be, oops. So you can see that there's actually some opportunities that may present themselves by going through this exercise. When I look at the next column, is it possible to just have one single product and a multiple number of clients? On the abstract, is it possible to have just one target market and then add products to it? I mentioned this earlier. And of course, having a niche market where I just have one product and one service. So often what happens is we're not sure where we're going to start the business, or maybe you aren't sure where you're going to start the business. Maybe you start it with one product and you already cater to several target markets. Maybe you have one target market and you cater several products or services. Maybe you have one single niche and one single product and you're doing great. But the thing is that by doing my brain dump and by understanding and having all the possibilities, then I've got room for expansion in the future, just in case things either get stale or the market changes or I see market opportunities. After all, when you did your market research, chances are the industry you're in is in the hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions. And if that's the case, how can you ever fail? You'll never, ever fail, or at least you shouldn't. I've worked with too many clients who basically, they did their market research. The market was big, it was huge. And if they wanted to make 40,000, 30,000, 100,000, a million, 2 million, 15 million, it really doesn't matter. When I looked at the size of the industry, it was just a drop in the bucket in terms of what I wanted to realize. And then I get these entrepreneurs that say, well, the reason why my business is failing is because there is no business. Hello? When you did the market research, the business was there. So I spent 10 years actually doing business turnarounds, working with businesses that literally ran out of steam. They were going under. They for whatever reason, it was either poorly managed, poorly financially managed, or the market potentially dried up in what they were doing, but there was so many more opportunities. And they should have, if they had a brain dump, and they had a number of different products and services and a number of different target markets, they could have made the shift very, very easily. So it comes down to which combination is best. So when I do a market niche approach, which approach is the least and easiest to do, least expensive and easiest to do? Which combination would I enjoy doing the most? Which approach is the best option to generate the most sustaining income in the least amount of time? And which combinations would I start with now and then next move on to? Which niche market combination would give me the best return on my investment, ROI? But as a small business operator, my focus is on ROIT, and that's my return on investment of time. And then which approach would help the company establish the best reputation and brand? So as you can see in the table below, there's variations on the theme. There's different ways to approach markets, but it's so important to do your homework, to reflect, to think about all that's possible, because you'll end up making better decisions. And then when you do decide which route to go, you can now talk about it in your business planning. So your business plan, you could initially say, I'm starting out with a single product and a single market, for example, and I hope to plan to keep with that one target market and then expand the number of products that I'm offering. Or vice versa. I'm going to just stay on this one single product and go after several target markets. Or I'm going to simultaneously grow both at the same time. So it's all built into your plan. So in conclusion, the benefits of model planning and using a business model canvas and a market niche planning tool together, it's a fast and easy way to explore your options quickly. You keep your ideas movable. You create a hybrid approach to your ideas, target markets, income, cost options, setup, and operational logistics. And you save time writing business plans through better decisions and communications and information. So that wraps it up. Thanks.